probably heard the quote that goes something like, our future is our youth. But how many of us really invest into our youth? Our adolescents, the schools that they spend majority of their time in. How many of us understand when the whole change that's happening in education from a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered classroom? Oops. My name is Aisha Qazi. I am 25 years old. I work at Northside College Preparatory High School. My students are here today as well, all 27 of them from Northside. So like many others who pursued a STEM degree, my life was pretty fast-paced, well-tracked, no room to question whatever I was doing. The focus was, there was this goal that was always laid out and I had to constantly achieve it. So it was like, keep going, keep moving, keep accomplishing. I graduated from high school, not feeling much empowered. Rather, I was very confused about my identity. I really wasn't sure about what my community was up to. And that's because of the way our education system was set up in the past. I graduated in 2010. So we're used to becoming these machines in society, but we don't really focus on how can we problem solve, how can we critique some of the societies that we're in. It wasn't until I went to a graduate program at UIC that I was taught to start questioning the unquestionable. The way school was structured both physically, structurally, socially, and emotionally. It was not until graduate class that I started to ask myself, why did my past teachers not implement lessons where it was like, why are we learning what we're learning? How is this important to me, my society, the government? And all of that plays a role when it comes down to voting. So when I turned 18 in high school, a lot of my classmates and we just didn't feel like our vote really mattered. And this is a trend that I noticed in high school, is that we talk about this young demographic, but usually our young demographic defines as anyone ages 21 to 30, 21 to 35, but young people can start voting at 18. So why are we not focusing on the high schools, the CPS high schools that are here in Chicago today, and ask ourselves, how are we engaging those youth? So the issue is this idea that we are not starting it in education. So from primary school all the way to secondary school, students are just taught to listen and produce. So it's like listening, producing, textbooks are thrown at students at all times. Me, myself, I've taken all AP classes in high school. So by the time I got to college, I really wasn't thinking much critically about just the life that I was living. I just wanted to pursue the degree I had. It really wasn't until I got to grad school, I got that luxury to start thinking about why the systems were set up the way they were and who was given more advantage and who was not. So the one common thing that I noticed a lot of people who are a lot older than me, they would share that, oh, you know what, you're getting this mess. I'm gonna become old, it's not my problem, it'll be yours. I'll hear quotes that are like, I'm probably going to die by the time this mess gets any big, larger. I don't know how you guys are gonna deal with it. Taxes are gonna be so high, you guys are not gonna get health care or insurance. But I never had an adult who told me, hey, actually you can solve this. Or maybe you guys should organize and get together and change this. And that's the problem. So the future is that we have to start thinking critically. So I work at Northside College Preparatory High School. It's a selective enrollment high school, one of 10. There are more CPS high schools too, but within these high schools, it depends on which discipline you're in and the standards that are set by the state. So for example, for science, there's the Next Generation Science Standards, which encourages critical thinking. So depending on instructor to instructor, it's really up to the teachers who decide as to what skills they're going to try to have these students learn and understand. So in the classes that I'm in, I make sure that my students are thinking critically of all the pieces of information that they're receiving. When I was at the Field Museum, so I'm a scientific affiliate at the Field Museum, we had a summer program. So I was the Green Ambassadors Coordinator. I worked with 15 interns from Bronzeville, Chinatown, Little Village, and Pilsen community. We ended up collaborating with the Environmental Law and Policy Center. So they provided us air monitors. So the air monitors check particulate matter in the air per second. And it sounds pretty fancy, right? So it's like you have this portable monitor, you have this phone device, you pair it together. The students went to their communities and realized that the particulate matter was pretty high, which is a huge issue. It was the air that they were breathing. So for example, areas in a little village, and I'm not here to, this is not to anyone who are living these areas, I'm not trying to scare anyone in these communities, but there were areas of where business was pretty heavy, that particulate matter was pretty high. So the students started to ask themselves, why is this so? How come this isn't true when it came to the Gold Coast? So when we did readings around there, the air quality was pretty good. Why is it that when we go, why is there green spaces dedicated to neighborhoods in Chicago where the income might be high? And these are questions that my students had to explore over the summer. But these are things we have to start thinking. This all started over the summer in the science classroom. And then with time, the students that graduated from this program, they're going to either pursue a career very similar to environmental law or in policy. And all of this begins at a young age. But unfortunately, it depends on how many of us have these resources, who has this ability and connections. I was lucky and fortunate to be put in these type of situations and institutions where I was able to pull up these type of individuals into my classroom, but not many teachers do. So my call is for the leaders that are in this room that are not in education to start looking into educational programs. 18-year-olds are far influential. They're capable of doing so much. The common saying that I usually see, this is another issue, let me bring that up too. One of the issues that I see is that a lot of the adults in the room will say, oh, these young people, they don't know how to socialize, they lack the social skills, they're so distracted with their iPhones. But the reality is that's how they communicate. So that's something we have to think about, is that we need to change the way we understand communication. If we get that they use technology and implement it, for example, we realize that their phones document, record, we can start having them to critically think about the stuff that they're gathering. So this is where critical thinking comes in. And then this leads me to citizen science. So those who are not familiar with citizen science, is this idea that citizens in a society can contribute to the scientific community. So you can be anybody in this room can contribute to the scientific community. And that is with your phone. You can just document the stuff that's around you. You spot a certain bird, you spot a certain tree or a plant, super important. And all of that data scientists use. It's this way where experts and students are all on the same plane. So a lot of these leaders in this room is to consider about some of the science initiatives that citizen science initiative schools are implementing. And last but not least, which is most important, is community involvement. So in order for us to be successful, in order for these young people to be leaders, communities need to stay involved. We need to find a way to foster these relationships, these connections. So it's great that, we do a conference. It's great that, we do all of this networking, but how do you sustain those relationships? That's super important. Like these young students here, I am lucky I'll be having them for the next 4 years. So I'll be able to see they're freshmen. I'll be able to see where they grow. However, a lot of people that work with youth, they do this huge conference and then they move on. So it's like maybe a lot of us leaders need to start considering how do we make sure that the skills that they learn from a conference carry on in the future. But yeah, thank you.